I'm Julia Davis, a film major who stumbled into the business world with no experience in 2006. I was able to fail enough to learn how to run a seven-figure business and have provided consulting services to over 200 individually owned companies. Through this podcast, I hope to provide some perspective on the growth and grit it takes to accomplish big goals and share some hard lessons I've had to learn along the way.
Today, we're going to talk about a little bit of time allocation. Sometimes it's hard to figure out who to spend time with on your roll call. This could be whether you're managing a big team of multiple people, or even if you're on a team, who you should be spending time with and maybe resourcing with. This will help you guide into that. So if you're running a business or you're a part of a business, almost everybody is a part of a team. But a question a lot of people have is, who do I go to if I want to get better, number one? And if I'm managing people, who do I spend time with? Because if there's a lot of people that need a lot of time, you got to pick and figure out who you should be working with and who you should be developing. So I'm going to color code this because I'm a super visual person. And when I ran a business, this is how I did this. So I would print out a roll call sheet, the people that worked with me, or I would, write all their names down, and I would grab 4 different color highlighters. I would grab a green highlighter, a pink one, yellow, and blue, right? Those are pretty standard colors of highlighters. So what I would do is I would go through and I would highlight people that fell into these 4 categories. So I knew who I should be focused on, who maybe needed a little bit more development. And then the next week it would change. So every week I would do this exercise on Sunday night before the week began to figure out, okay, who needs the most development? Who do I need to spend the most time with? And it really helped me. So I'm going to break down the 4 categories. So the first one is green, right? So the green color is what I always highlighted first. And these people are the people that are really low maintenance and high performing people, whether they are good at interviewing in HR, or they're really good at training tactics, or they're good at teaching skills, whatever it is. Like, these are people I didn't have to worry about. Like, I could give them a mission and they would do it, and they wouldn't call every 10 minutes asking for guidance. They could just figure it out. Or if they got really stuck, they would call. But I knew they would be on time. I knew they would be where they said they were going to be. People that I just did not have to worry about. Those were the green people. Those were my number one players, like the best players on the team, right? So I would highlight those people first, because that's the leadership core that I would really rely on to teach other people. So those were my green people. The next color was blue. Blue people were like really loyal, and they were okay. But they usually had like one quality that was holding them back, like whether it was being on time, or they just couldn't stay focused for a full day, or they got off task easily, kind of the same thing. But the blue people were kind of that. Like, I liked them. They were good people, but they just had one thing that was holding them back. So with these people, it was really important for me to figure out how to have a conversation with them, to figure out how to tell them like where they stood, right? So I would tell them, and sometimes I would talk to these people on my roll call at the beginning of the week and just say, hey, if you can nail this one thing, then you'll be able to, see a better result, or whatever it is. It might have been a training issue. It might have been they just gossiped a lot, or, talked negatively about coworkers, or always found a problem instead of a solution. Like, whatever it was something that was holding them back. Those are my blue people. So I would highlight those people in blue and write next to them like what that trait was that was really limiting their ability to grow, or limiting their potential. A lot of times in businesses, the person in a leadership role doesn't do this, and those people think they're better than they are. And that's really dangerous, because if those people think they're going to grow and then they don't, I'm sure you can imagine what happens. They get really mad, because they're like, I'm doing everything you're telling me to do. I'm working hard. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And for whatever reason that they don't know, they're not growing, or they're not getting better, or they're not getting more responsibility, or moving up the ladder. So as a leadership person, or as somebody who's on a team, do that person a favor and tell them the problem, because they might not know what the problem is. And as long as they know, they can fix it or not fix it, but then there's no gray area there. So that's like the blue person, right? So then the next person is yellow. These are people that just come in with a lot of potential. So these are usually like new starts, or, rookies, or people that come in the door that just showcase a ton of potential. that's a yellow person on my roll call. So I would take the yellow highlighter and highlight them, and I would try to match them with greens to make sure that all my yellow people are getting trained by people who are green, because I want to make sure that those people get the best training possible and see the best habits so that they can become the best version of themselves. If I put a yellow person with somebody who's blue, then I know that that yellow person could adapt to whatever character quality that blue person has, plus their own negative. So I would like compound my problem if I put that yellow person with the blue. So I would highlight those people yellow and I would put them with greens. And I would make sure that the new talent and the new potential are with people who are really, really good. And not people who need to work on themselves before they can develop any type of growth opportunity. So you really want to pay attention to that. These are the most vulnerable people on your roll call because they don't know you, they don't know the company culture, they don't know. And we lose in business a lot of really good candidates by matching them with a trainer that isn't, as good as they are, or doesn't show the right example, or doesn't do the right things. And that can be very, very damaging to somebody's career. So really pay attention to that. The yellow is the most vulnerable on your roll call. So if you're managing people and you get somebody who's really sharp that comes in the door, figure out who the best person is to train them based on that color coding. So, and then there's the pink, right? Those are the people that maybe they've been around a really long time and they're super loyal and we really like those people, but they're not going anywhere. So like those people that I highlight in pink are the ones that are just kind of distractions to everybody. Like they're not helpful. They're not moving the needle. In fact, they're doing more damage than good. Not because they're bad people, but just because they're not contributors. So like they're not adding any value. They're not doing anything that's moving the needle for people. They're not putting forth any type of like positive impact. So I look at that person and that's a really honest conversation of like, hey, we got to improve X, Y, or Z, or we've got to move on from this role, because the people that are in that pink category are usually people who have been around for years and years and years and years, but they just are not doing the job. So it sets a bad example for the other people who are growing if you don't move that person out of the way of the team. So you've got to really pay attention to who that person is. And a lot of times it's like if they call you, you kind of, this person because you take like a big deep breath, or you look at their name when they're calling you and you're like, what now? What's going to be the issue now that you're bringing up? Like, I don't mind if people stick around and add value, but if somebody is sticking around and not adding value, but instead taking away from the company culture or the value of whatever business you're in, you got to really look at that and understand no one's going to say anything because their seniority is high, but you've got to move that person into a different role or to the side to make sure that they're not pulling everybody else down. So something that's really, really important is to be honest with that person so they know how they can add value in the future or move them to another role or something else. But a lot of times they're just distracting, and if they're negative or if they're not helping in a really toxic way, you got to move them off your roll call. So when it comes to time allocation and who you should be spending time with, if you look at this model, if you look at the green, blue, yellow, and red or pink, then if you're highlighting all these people, that you should spend your most time with the green and the yellow. So the green and the yellow are the ones that you should be spending the majority of your time with. The people that are in the blue category, I'm just kind of telling them what needs to happen and then letting them figure that out. But I'm not spending a ton of extra time with those people trying to build that habit within them. Like they've got to do that on their own time. So you just identify the negative and have them move forward. And when I ask people, who are you the hardest on? A lot of people say I'm the hardest on the blue person because they've got, the most negatives and they could be good. When in reality, like if you think about any type of team, the person the coach is the hardest on is the green, right? You're not hard on the yellow. Like the yellow, you're like trying to recruit. Like the yellow person, you're like trying to make your friend and get excited about what you're doing. The green person is like your quarterback. They're the person with the most talent, unrealized talent. And that's the person that you should be the hardest on. So you should drive that person with the most talent, the most nuts on fixing and growing and development because they have the potential to actually do that job. Whereas the person in the blue category, they might never fix whether they can be on time or not, or if they can just, stay on task for a full day. Like they might not ever be able to fix that. Where the green person is already doing all those things, they just need to be challenged more. So if you look at teams, a good coach always challenges their top players. That's who they focus on. They're kind of indifferent to a lot of the other players that are just sitting on the bench hanging out. They're not like driving them nuts for a reason, because they know those people will just watch the green players, the ones that are really, really good, and decide to get better and push forward and do that job. Or, eventually they'll leave the team and do something else. But it doesn't mean everybody doesn't have to show up for practice. Doesn't mean everybody, doesn't have to come in with a good attitude. Like that's still a requirement. That's like a job requirement, right? But who you're spending time with should be the people on the green and the people in the yellow. And that will help you be able to identify what to do with your week as far as time allocation. And you just need to have a quick one-on-one with the people that need to fix something and tell them what they need to fix so that they understand what they need to work on for that week. But ignoring everybody and just hoping things work out, or, going into business and just saying, oh, well, people will develop themselves. Like that's not a realistic expectation. So if you're managing and leading people, you need to have a system like this where you can identify top talent and emerging talent, and then people who are creating problems in your business. And this is how you can do it in an easier way. But those of you guys who are watching this that are like, hey, this doesn't make sense to me, or I need more information, like feel free to reach out to me directly. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram at julia.bizstories, and we can analyze what's going on in your business and figure out where people rank on that chart of, green, yellow, blue, pink. But every week it changes. So it's not because I highlighted one person green one week, they're green forever. They might turn into a blue, right, in 3 months. Somebody who's a blue might turn into a green. Like every week is different. Every week is new. So based on habits and work ethic and different things that are going on, people move up and down this roll call all the time. But hopefully this idea is helpful to you, and you can start doing this in your business so that you can start really creating momentum and allowing people to understand where they are in your company and where they need to go. And if you are a worker in a business and you want help, find a green person. Find somebody that you know is doing the job well and doesn't require a ton of extra time to figure something out. But you see whoever the person in charge is the hardest on with the most potential, that's probably your best bet to go to that person, because that's who the coach is focused on if they're working this type of leadership system. So I hope that was helpful for you. And again, reach out if you need extra help or you need more explanation on any of these categories. Otherwise, thanks so much. And I hope you guys have a great week.